Hello, Colleen Banks. How are you today?
I'm good, Carol. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I think everyone is doing what they can to survive the times.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you for joining us today on today's Chamber Chat and welcome to our family out there, our Chamber family. We're going to be talking today about finances, what you can do to help yourself and your family during this unprecedented time. So I'd like to introduce Colleen Banks with Wealth Development Strategies. And Colleen,
Hello.
yes, Colleen, tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, I'm a financial professional with Wealth Development Strategies, and I've been with them for the last 13 years. And so we focus on comprehensive financial planning. And what that means is we look at budgeting, risk management, and investing. And in that order, because again, we are trying to build upon monies, build your monies, and not just have monies all over the place. So we have a very strategic process that we use to building wealth.
Well, see, this is the lady we need to be talking to, everyone, because she knows how to handle money. She knows how to tell us what to do with our money. And as business owners, we shouldn't just be looking at making profits from our business. We also need to be looking at saving and investing for our personal lives as well. So we're going to get into these questions and
Okay.
see what Colleen has to say, what advice she has to give us today. So, Colleen, our first question is for people who are not negatively impacted by COVID-19, what should they be doing right now as far as their money is concerned?
hmm Absolutely. And that's a great question to start with because um, even though you may not be going to work or you may be working from home, it's still a good time to evaluate and regroup and get a budget. If you don't have a budget in place right now, this is a perfect opportunity to put one in place because you're home, you can see exactly where your money's going. We're not spending as much as we normally would be if we were just, running out day to day. But establishing a budget is really the best place to start. And right now, as you look at your budget, you need to be looking at essential and non-essential expenses. And right now, since we're all at this stay-at-home mode, we can see what is really non-essential, you
Right.
know? Because there's some things that we feel as if we need, but really, we are learning to do without a few things. And we should, and so as you're building your budget, you should also look at those things that you can probably cut back on, not so much cut out, but cut back on. Okay. And so that's one thing that we should be looking at. And so a lot of times some people have budgeting programs that they're using, but if they don't have one, there are budgeting programs that are available online that they can utilize. They can also utilize worksheets that are online, also available to them, or they can make their own. You know, take a worksheet and then make their own, be it through Excel or some other means to make their own worksheet, and then use it.
Use it. That's the key word. Use it.
Yeah, because we have to, because a lot of times on anybody's cash flow worksheet or budgeting worksheet, there's a line on there that's called savings, right? And that's the one line nobody really wants to put anything in that particular category, right? And unfortunately, for times like this, that is the line where we should also be including putting monies on a regular basis. Because, for those that are still working and getting a paycheck, even now, even they need to start looking for their own personal rainy days that may happen, right? And
Absolutely.
putting monies away and understanding, first of all, how much do they need to be putting away? And again, financial planning is a process, so it does take time to make these numbers get to grow to where you want them to be. But as long as you decide, okay, how much do I need, and then how much can I comfortably put away each month into an account, that will allow me to be able to pull from that in the case that I do have a real emergency. And right now, I think for those people that are not getting a paycheck, this is a real emergency.
Right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And for your clients that are business owners, are you giving them similar advice? Would a business owner necessarily do a savings account for their business? I'm sure at this point they are looking at the expenses that they can cut. So would your advice be similar as it pertains
Absolutely.
to business?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because again, when we distinguish the individual from the business, the individual, we're recommending 3 to 6 months of what it costs you to live in your house, right? And then for the business, we're looking at 6 to 12 months, right, to put away so that you will have, some resources to pull from. Because, we're hearing that some of these businesses that are out there are not, laying off people, they're able to continue to pay their employees. Well, everybody's not independently wealthy. Sometimes it's just about planning for that bad day, right?
Right.
And having the money put away so that when you are in a down situation, some things can continue on for some period of time.
Right.
And it doesn't, and we hope it's not, that this will clear up sooner than later so that we can all get back to functioning like we have been.
Right.
And be in a better position.
Yes, in a better position. And I noticed that you said not cut out, but cut back some things.
Yeah, because there's some things that we enjoy doing that, once, things get back up and running, we are going to want to do them again. But then we're seeing that, wow, it's been kind of nice not, having some extra money in my pocket, that I didn't spend because I can't go nowhere, but now I can go somewhere. Yes, I do want that, that service that I used to get all the time, but do I need it as often as I was getting it before?
Right, right. This is causing us to rethink a lot of things, but we don't want to get to the point where we're not enjoying life.
Right, right. But it becomes, how do we enjoy life? What's important in life?
Right.
you know and some things just go 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 go, and it's like, okay, now we haven't come to a screeching halt, right?
Right.
And understand what's really important. And then also from a financial perspective, what things that we really need to be focusing on as far as paying out. And in the event, okay, that person has a paycheck now, depending upon how long we may be sitting, they may not have a paycheck.
This is true.
And then they also have to think about, how long can I survive without any income coming in? So a budget is definitely a key component to any type of financial planning, because again, if there's a surplus, okay, how do you make that work harder for you? And then if there's a deficit, how do you alleviate that deficit?
Mm-hmm. So that means that we're going to have to exercise patience, because planning is not a quick process. We just have to keep in mind that we have it's a means to an end.
That is correct. That is definitely correct. Yes.
Okay. So with our members and guests who are still earning the same amount of money, would your advice be the same, or would it be a little bit different?
No, it would definitely be the same, and even more so for them, because again, a lot of people don't really have that emergency fund, set up for emergencies. So it still applies. I mean, the same concepts apply. Put it away, find your account to put it in, and don't touch it, because again, money grows when you are contributing and not touching it. So it would be the same advice for even that person that is still getting a paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so when we're thinking about this time period, I mean, everyone is shuffling their mindset as far as what they typically do with the money that they have in hand, be it business cash flow or the personal paycheck that our consumers receive. So when you're thinking about either business or personal debt, is this the time to pay off debt, or should you just put cash away?
You have to do, this is a ongoing discussion, and we have to do things simultaneously,
Mm.
right? We have to put money away and we have to pay off debt, because again, if we don't pay off debt, our credit scores are affected. And then when we go to make purchases, that, affects our purchasing power. So we have to do a little bit of both all at the same time. Now, if you are overpaying on all of your debt, maybe it's time to reduce those overpayments and just, pay, what they're asking for, because some people pay more on their car, more on their house, more on their credit cards. Maybe it's time to just say, okay, let me just pay what I'm supposed to pay and save some of the other until we're back in, times of where we can really say, okay, I have the extra, so let me try to aggressively pay off my debt.
Mhm. And if you're the type of person, and I know that there are no chamber members who are like this at all, but if you find yourself not very disciplined in being able to pay off debt or set aside money for an emergency fund, what advice could you give to help people get into that mindset?
Oh, wow. And that's a hard one, because changing spending habits is difficult. And trying to change the mindset of someone is a difficult task, when it comes to money, because, we all feel as if we work hard, I should be able to do whatever I want to do with my money, however I want to do it. But, at this is a time, I think for times like this is where we have to really, really look at our spending and say, okay, am I in a bad situation right now? How could I have avoided this? I think this is a eye-opening time for everybody, those that are, with income and or without income, to just say, how can I not find myself in this position again? And sometimes it's the reality check that causes us to move and do something different.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is it's a firm wake up check, because
Mhm.
if I've never thought to myself, I'm going to pay down a little bit of debt and also save, I think I would do that now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll figure a way to do both, and the thing is that when you're saving, you save what you can, because again, we got to continue living. There's those bills that don't go away, like the lights, the water, the gas. Those don't go away. But you have to look at your budget and say, okay, how much does it cost me to live, right? And I say living expenses versus income, because sometimes people will say, oh, I need my 3 to 6 months of my income. No, you need 3 months of your living expenses, because sometimes that income is less than your living expenses, right?
Yes.
And so there's a disconnect. But as long as you put away something, whatever that amount is, be it small, large, whatever you feel comfortable putting away, and putting it in a place where you cannot touch it and don't touch it, it will grow. And then we'll all be in a better position.
Agreed. Because you want to do what you can.
Right.
At the end of the day, it may not be $50,000 that you can set aside, or some huge number, but you do what you can to just kind of make it through this time, and then reevaluate, on the other side of it. Yeah, I
And
mean,
just starting is the hardest thing, though.
right.
It's starting, and there's mechanisms out there now that you can do things on, auto draft, until you physically don't have to do anything. It can you just set it up and it just does it on its own. And then, it can give whatever's left over is what you have to, pay your bills and live off of,
Hmm. And
you
sometimes
know.
when you don't see the money, you won't feel it.
You really don't. You don't.
It'll just move on into that account, and you can not worry about it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thinking about businesses, uh, a lot of employers have to worry about, making this big decision. Should I lay off my employees or should I not? Because especially with small businesses, you have you would consider in some businesses your employees family, and it's hard to separate yourself from them, knowing that the money that you pay them is probably the biggest means of income that they have in their families. Um, so, do you think that our businesses should go ahead and lay off employees, or should they apply for the Paycheck Assistance Program that encourages businesses to keep their employees?
Well, I think each business owner has to evaluate their situation and how long can they keep their employees until the support comes. I do believe that they all should apply for every opportunity that's out there, to keep their businesses afloat and to keep their employees working. But each business has to pretty much evaluate themselves and say, okay, because they got to apply for this program, then they have to wait for the funding to come. So can they wait on the program? That becomes the biggest question. And if they can't, well, unfortunately, they may have to lay off the employees, but they'll be able to bring them back. I don't, that's really a hard one. Each company would have to evaluate their own situation to see which is better for them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, as I reviewed the Paycheck Protection Program, I thought,
Mhm.
well, just what you said. Can the businesses, will they be able to make it between the time that they have to lay off employees or close their doors and receive the money? And, thinking about the credit issue that you raised a little bit ago, there is at least one bank that is waiving credit guidelines, and that's Bank of America. So they are, you do have to check with the individual banks to see what they're offering, what perks they may be offering. But I agree with you. You really need to evaluate your own situation to see if you can wait.
Yeah, you do. You
Yeah,
really do.
unfortunately. But I'm glad that we have the Paycheck Protection Program to offer the assistance. So,
Right, right.
mhm,
Most definitely. That's a good, it's a good program. Well, I guess it will be a good program, once everybody, can apply, and see, can reap the benefit of the program.
right, right, right. So this ugly, I'll call it ugly because I don't know anyone who actually likes this, but student loan payments, should we defer those at this time?
Well, I usually talk to people that are trying to accelerate their student loan payments, right? So it's kind of hard to, again, that's a situational suggestion, because if you're still working and you're still getting a paycheck, you might as well continue paying your, student loan bills, all of your bills on time, right? But I would also recommend, looking at the programs that are being offered that are talking about, deferring student loans, or, what those look like and how do those affect that, each person individually.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, nothing is a one size fits everybody. It has to be, definitely a one-on-one, how is this going to affect me personally, and it may affect one person in a positive way, and it may affect another person in a negative way, so it has to be a self-evaluation of the programs that are being offered for these different student loan programs.
And you make a good point about just looking at your individual situation to determine whether or not you should defer, because
Mhm.
there may come a time, I mean, we're seeing a lot of layoffs right now, but there may come a time where there are layoffs. The companies who are functioning now may still have to lay off.
Right.
And so, I mean, we really don't know what the back end is going to be for business, after COVID-19. So, um, deferring payments to a time, well, putting off the decision to defer payments to a time when you really need to do that, would seem kind of like the best way to do it. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I would agree with that because again, each person has to assess their situation when it's happening because unfortunately, some things are happening very fast and we're waking up and having to make decisions that we didn't think we were going to have to make, for a longer period of time. But I do think it's a case by case and each person needs to really look and see what their situation is and, how should they move forward.
Mhm. Yes, yes. Do you think there's a reason to take any cash out of the banks?
No, I mean, I always think you should have a little cash on hand, just in case, something happens, like where like, for instance, back in when ICE happened, I think, and the banks were closed and you couldn't get any money out the bank or anything, just a little bit of cash on hand. But no, there's no reason to take your money out of the bank. I mean, the accounts are FDIC insured up to 250,000 and, there's no reason to panic in that regard. Most of the banking institutions have reached out to their customers and assured them that their accounts are okay and that they're still doing banking business. So I think that still there's no reason to pull your monies out.
Mhm. Yes, that was a topic of discussion in one of my friend groups about how much money we need to get out of the bank, because I think people had an apocalyptic view when this first started, and things are kind of calming down a little bit. And so it's good to know that our banking system is still secure and we won't have to worry about pulling all of our money out.
Right.
So what do you think about going into your 401k and withdrawing money?
Yeah. Again, I think your 401k should be one of the last resorts for money because 401k and any retirement account, it could possibly have the potential to cost you money, right? So, but for those that are still employed and have a 401k, if you do need to pull into it, contact your HR department and understand what that means for you. Again, because companies have what they call a hardship distribution provision, and this may be considered a hardship. So again, they may allow you to take some amount out with a stipulation of that you will be repaying it back, over time. So again, I kind of say if that should be like your last resort. But if that's the resort that you have, you kind of have to get what pull what you can, but make that be your last resort.
Hmm. And would you recommend that, for those who it is their last resort, see what
Mm-hmm.
they can negotiate as far as having to replace it, like, maybe replacing it within a longer amount of time versus a shorter amount of time?
Well, I would see what they have to offer. Usually it's most companies give like 5 years, but I don't know if there's making any adjustments, now with this situation that we're in now. But they would definitely have to have that conversation. And in some cases, it's not a negotiation. I mean, this is what it is,
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, if you want to, if you're able to pay it back sooner, there's no penalty for that. But if you need to take longer, that may be some penalty for taking longer to pay it back.
Hmm. Okay. Great things to consider. So what about investments? Do you think it's risky to invest right now? I've seen some text messages going around about some great stocks to purchase and things of that nature right now. So what do you think about that?
Well, whenever someone decides to invest, there's many different types of risks that are out there at any time. So not just now, but at any time. And so a person needs to really understand um, what their risk tolerance is, because there's, we talk about risk as, oh, I want to get in, but then there's market risk, which is what we're having now, a decline in the value. There's liquidity risk. Is it going to be worth what you want it to be worth when you want it to be worth something? There's concentration risk. If you have one stock, that may not be a good thing. If you have credit risk, the government or a company may have financial difficulties, meeting their obligations. There's reinvestment risk. Will you be able to reinvest monies back into whatever it is you're investing in? There's inflation risk. you know, so will, the purchasing power of that dollar, will it be worth something more or less, probably less, as time goes on? Then there's horizon risk. How long will it be till you need that money? Okay. So, and those are being shortened. Some people are thinking, okay, well, I'm going to reach a certain age at a certain time, but then now I may be forced to do that sooner than what I anticipated. And then there's longevity risk. Outliving my savings, outliving my investment. I don't have, I'm still here and it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are kind of the things that I have to tell people, can you withstand the fluctuation in the market? And right now the market is fluctuating. So, and how long will you, before you'll need the money? So is it a good time to buy? Yes, because the markets are low, but do you have the resources to buy?
Mm-hmm.
If you're participating in your 401k plan and you're making contributions on a regular basis, continue making your contributions. Don't stop, because again, the markets are low, so you're buying more for less. But a lot of times you'll hear people, say, oh, I want to take my money out of the market right now. But then that's the opposite of what we always say. You say buy low and sell high. Yeah. So if someone is in the market now, they bought high and they're selling low. So now they've lost. So it's a kind of a mixed bag of nuts. It's one of those things where each situation, again, has to be evaluated. Each person's finances have to be evaluated, because you don't have the emergency fund to take care of your immediate needs, then you should be investing money in an uncertain time. Right. Mm-hmm. But if you have, a good amount of discretionary income, yes, it's a good time to buy. It's a good time. You should be invested in the stock market.
So what about those who have stocks? Should they sell or should they hold?
They need to hold it, because again, the markets will, eventually things will come back. And if you don't need the income, leave it. Because again, you probably bought it at a higher price. And now if you sell it at the lower price, like I said, you have truly lost in the market. You lost money in the market. But if you hold it, and as once we start getting back into some degree of normalcy in our world, the markets will kind of start probably going back up again. And then of course you can start to your accounts, and then, they'll be back up again. But, you have to think about it. We've been in a great market for a long, long time, and it could not stay that way.
Right.
Yeah. We have to have some correction. And fortunately, the corrections are here, but they have been they seem to be kind of stabling out a little bit. If you watch the financial markets a little bit, they're not as drastic as they were initially. They're still happening by all means, but there's not as drastic. So yes, it is a good time to buy, and but it is a good time to hold as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Colleen Banks, thank you so much for joining us today. This is a lot of good and helpful information. Where can the audience, our listeners, get in touch with you?
Yes, I can be reached at 713-561-8132, or my email address is, I'll give you the short version, is cbanks, BANKS, @htk.com.
Okay. We appreciate your time, Colleen, and just want to reach out to everyone watching and say the Chamber is very, very concerned about your well-being, and that's why we hold these Chamber chats. If you have any questions, feel free to post them, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Want to just keep you in the loop, so make sure that you check our social media at Greater Houston Black Chamber. and also our website at ghbcc.com. That's ghbcc.com. We have chamber chats every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. So please tune in to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and also on LinkedIn. We would love for you to take advantage of these chamber chats and get your questions and your feedback. So please be in tune with the chamber and join today, because we always have opportunities for our members that are members only. Well, thanks again, Colleen, for joining us today. Again, Colleen Banks with Wealth Development Strategies. She is available to assist you with your financial planning needs. She gives great advice, and she is one of our chamber treasurers. So thank you again, Colleen, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we'll see you all next time on Chamber Chat.